as my brother says, if something, if Bitcoin doesn't fix it, then it's not a problem, and Bitcoin fixes everything. So,
Yeah.
yeah, Bitcoin will fix this. I've worked so hard to get here. I know I have so many years still to go, and all of this just to improve people by 30%. What are we doing wrong? I didn't work all my life just to make people feel better by 30%. It was around the same time that my brother was going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, and we were starting to understand that, what we are taught in school, what the mainstream is telling us, might not be completely truthful.
Wake people up, like kind of shake them awake, like, hey, why are we really doing this? And what if there's an alternative?
Like the whole goal is to get people not to take any medicine or not take pills, but there's one pill you should take, and that's an orange pill.
100%.
Welcome back to the Bitcoin Fellowship, the show where we connect the dots between Bitcoin, medicine, and the cost of staying asleep in a broken system. This week, Adam and I sit down with Dr. Ahmad Ammous, the brother of Saifedean Ammous, the author of the Bitcoin Standard. We get into a deep conversation and talk about why modern medicine is broken, the history of centralized healthcare, and how Bitcoin can fix the incentives that keep it sick. As always, this is not financial advice or medical advice. I hope you enjoy the conversation this week. Let's get right into it.
Guys, welcome back to episode 6 of the Bitcoin Fellowship. We're thrilled to welcome Dr. Ahmad Ammous to the Bitcoin Fellowship with me and Adam. Dr. Ammous completed his MD at the American University of Beirut and his internal medicine residency at Staten Island University Hospital. He holds a bachelor's degree in chemistry from Swarthmore College. Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He became frustrated by a system that treats symptoms rather than curing disease, and he immersed himself in functional and natural medicine, blending time-tested healing traditions with cutting-edge therapeutics. Today, he helps patients achieve true wellness by getting healthy without pills, and I can't wait to dive into how his systems-level approach to health parallels the resilience and root cause thinking we value in Bitcoin's proof-of-work ethos. Dr. Ahmad Ammous, welcome to the fellowship.
Thank you. Honored to be on your show.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Obviously, we're a new show, just spinning it up. We're excited to talk all things medicine, Bitcoin. I know that we have very different approaches to medicine. We're kind of stuck in the traditional world. You obviously have chosen a different path, and we're excited to get to talk about it.
I'm excited too.
Yeah. So let's get started. Why did you initially get into medicine? I know from the original, we titled this when we revisiting Fiat medicine, kind of based on your interview with your brother on his podcast, The Bitcoin Standard. So why did you get into medicine? I understand your dad was a physician. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, my dad was a physician. Funnily enough, my dad really pushed my brother to become a doctor, but He didn't push me. My brother didn't want to do medicine. I ended up doing it. I always liked how appreciative my dad's patients were to his services, and that was inspiring to me. I saw how much of a difference he made in their lives. He was a plastic surgeon, mostly mostly worked on burn victims. So, it's a lot of hard work, but it's rewarding for the people who, have the burns. And so that was my inspiration. I worked hard to get into medical school. I did my undergraduate here in the US, and I did my medical school in Lebanon. And in medical school, you guys remember when they bring standardized patients for us. So this was like in the rheumatology chapter of it. And they brought us like a rheumatoid arthritis patient. And I was talking to her, and she's been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis for like 15 years. And she's been doing everything as the doctors have been telling her. She's taking all the pills. She's doing all the lab work. And I asked her, how much improvement have you seen with doing this? And she told me, maybe 30%. And that was quite a shocking moment for me. Young doctor to be. I've worked so hard to get here. Mm-hmm. I know I have so many years still to go. And all of this just to improve people by 30%.
Yeah, that's not a high goal, high bar.
Yes, it wasn't. And it just got me thinking, like, what are we doing wrong? I didn't work all my life just to make people feel better by 30%.
Mm-hmm.
And it was around the same time that my brother was going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, and we were starting to understand that, what we are taught in school, what the mainstream is telling us, might not be completely truthful. And I started questioning, well, is that true also for medicine? And I started just looking online for answers, and what I came up with was quite shocking.
So this is why you were still a medical student.
Yes.
So how did that affect your approach to finishing out the degree and then residency and everything? 'Cause I didn't realize that you had kind of you'd exited the medical matrix that early in your training.
It was very difficult. At many points during medical school, I thought about quitting. I thought maybe I can do something more natural. Maybe I can go learn from someone that practices more natural ways of healing, etc. But then I stuck with it because I thought I've done all the hard work so far, and I'm in medical school already. Have the degree on the wall will give me a little bit more credibility when I'm talking about this in the future.
Sure.
And so I stuck with it. Residency was also very difficult because, internal medicine residency is brutal. And you're also doing it while you're not addressing the actual root cause of the illness. You're just handling symptoms and just putting band-aids and pulling out fires. And so, yeah.
So did you consider any kind of fellowship after that? Or like because I know for internal medicine especially, the fellowship catalog is pretty broad. I didn't know if there's any like natural leaning ones or anything like that you considered.
No, I mean, I thought about doing fellowship just to have, extra ribbons on the wall. But then I realized that people don't care that much about the ribbons. They care about the content that they're giving them. They care about actually feeling better. And I understood by now that, like, I considered doing an endocrinology fellowship. I figured out by now that, nothing I will learn in the endocrinology fellowship is it might help me understand the body more. But none of the medications they tell me about or anything I'm going to be using for my patients.
Right.
So I thought it would be a waste of time for me.
Gotcha. So you went straight from residency to hanging up your own shingle and like opening your own private thing?
No. So I needed it for visa purposes here in the US. I had to be employed by a hospital. So I did that until I got my green card.
Gotcha.
And right now, I haven't fully left my hospitalist work. I do it part-time and do my online business.
Gotcha. Very cool.
Side as well.
How's that online side going? I know you just launched it about a year ago when you did that podcast with your brother.
Yeah, I mean, it's growing slowly. The online world is like a different beast. It's all about, getting online traction and getting your word out there. So it's still growing slowly. I mean, the people that I've spoken to so far have been like, I don't feel that I've done something that incredible for them, but to them, it was the most incredible doctor experience they've ever, because I wasn't just pushing pills on them. I listened and talked to them and tried to understand where they're coming from. And so that means a lot to people.
You found Bitcoin as a medical student, which I think is really fortunate, because then you kind of had the idea going forward is like, okay, this is probably where I'm going to store my wealth. This is kind of the point of our podcast, was getting to some medical professionals as early as possible, because you know how life-changing it can be the earlier you get into it. Do you think that kind of helped you formulate your own thoughts and kind of come to that truth, of like how to fix in your own way, fix medicine, because you had more financial freedom going forward?
I wish that were the case. I learned about Bitcoin way too early than when I bought. So I wish I have the financial freedom to just, not worry about these things, but I don't. So it gave me the intellectual curiosity to explore more, I would say, more than the financial freedom.
Interesting. It's kind of, I think it's, everything ties back. You can talk about Bitcoin, but I think it's that kind of like truth virus, right? And kind of all domains. It kind of opens up your brain to like all these different aspects of, health and financial freedom. And you look at what the laws that are being passed and what the government's doing. I think Chris and I could talk about this endlessly, but it's just really interesting to hear that part of your story and how that kind of helps spark your desire and your curiosity to fix what we all inherently know is broken.
Yes. I mean, we need I guess my brother is an inspiration in that, because he was also part in like a corrupt academic system. He was an economics professor, and he just wasn't enjoying what he was doing, and he decided, well, I'm gonna go and write a book about it. And it started off with a book. Eventually it became he became a celebrity basically, and now its entire life is dedicated to that. And that was kind of like an inspiration to me also. There are alternative ways to getting to what you want to do. You just have to kind of be creative about it. And this is something I think a lot of doctors are not comfortable with. We're very good at just following the regimented path to where we want to get.
It's very much the you can just do things mantra of Bitcoiners. Like, doctors are very bad at that. Like, they're very good at following the rules and checking the boxes and like trying to climb the social and career ladder. Yeah. But it's rare that you find people that really kind of buck the system and like say, well, why do we do it this way? You know, we do a lot of things in medicine because they've been done that way forever. But
yeah, and it's interesting. A lot of the sort of dissenting voices that you hear online are people that are reflecting on the medical system, but they're not in it. It's not doctors that are mostly talking about this. And it's because doctors are just good at following commands and doing as they're told.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There is a role for such people in society. And I guess medical education sort of selects for that, because if you're an entrepreneur and you have ideas and you want to think outside the box, you're unlikely going to be, attracted to a career where, you're just going to have to study for 11 years before you even get to do anything.
Use your brain. Yeah, absolutely.
So you think it's their personality, like we self-select for that personality, or is it because the average medical graduate has so much debt? Once you're done, you realize like I really cannot mess this up because it's my only way out of this hole that I've dug myself into. I think it's kind of both, but yeah.
It's both. Yeah. It's both. It's the like personalities that are more outside the mainstream wouldn't make it through pre-med and medical school and residency.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, you end up burdened with debt, and you're married and you have kids. And
yeah, a lot of people, we've talked about in other episodes, you have that delayed gratification, you get out, you get your first big paycheck, and people just, instead of taking the first step out of the hole, they dig it 20 stories deeper by taking on a big house, a big car, a boat, big wedding, bunch of kids, those are all great things. But if you have to do them the right way and do it responsibly, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and also we live in a world where your money is losing value all the time. So it's even more difficult because of that.
Yeah.
Think of the inflation over 11 years of training. What has happened to the value of?
Yeah, that was our episode 1, was really looking at what Bitcoin and inflation had done in opposite trajectories since we started our medical training. Because we started this whole discussion of, we graduated the same year of residency, and we were really considering doing a fellowship, an extra year of training to get a specialized job in anesthesia. And we both kind of came to the same conclusion in parallel around the same time, and then confirmed with each other that spending that year on education had a lot more cost than we'd initially realized. And including a year of Bitcoin appreciation, which ended up being a very big year of, wealth appreciation. But yeah, same kind of thought process there.
100%. Yeah.
Ahmad, I think going back to your original Fiat Medicine podcast with your brother, I think one of the interesting things you guys mentioned was like academic medicine. And that's something that Chris and I have talked with. And I think we all experience having to do a residency and inherently being in academic medicine. You see the kind of physicians and attendings that come out of that. And a lot of them are so intricately tied within the system that they don't have the option to talk about anything being outside, right? They're trying to, like Chris said, climb the career ladder. They're trying to get grants. And oftentimes that's like it's like trying to maintain the standard of care, but to like 1,000%. Like I remember being a resident and being in the OR and trying to do like a nerve block on a patient as the anesthetic instead of just a true general anesthetic for like a sicker older person that would have benefited from it. And the attending was too worried about like being liable for like complications of a nerve block, which most of us know that's like a better anesthetic for somebody with those comorbidities. But because of Fiat, because of the system itself and not wanting to take on extra liability, they just said, just put them to sleep and put a tube in. And I think that's one of the things that's been nice for Chris and I in the private world is that we can do, you're kind of the, in anesthesia, you're kind of the owner of your own domain. You can practice how you'd like to. So I do a ton of regional, I do a ton of neuraxial anesthesia. And inherently, I mean, there's more and more data, post-op cognitive dysfunction, especially in elderly patients or people with existing dementia going into anesthesia. But just like using anesthetic gases and having a patient inherently like huff gas for 4 hours is not a good thing, right? And using like a total IV anesthetic with propofol in combination with a regional nerve block, you just watch the patients wake up so much smoother and so much more with it. I'm sure you can attest to that too, Chris.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting to see, like, we didn't get that option in academic medicine.
Yeah, academia is kind of it's kind of like a graveyard for bright ideas, you know. Everything that just has a momentum, and everybody's trying to chase that momentum, and nothing intelligent comes out, nothing bright, nothing exciting comes out of it. We just try and do what gets us more, you know, the second degree or the more fellowship or getting this paper published. And academic journals in general, they're very favored towards a certain outcome, and that outcome is not for the benefit of patients. That outcome is selling medication,
strong data in selling things,
more complicated procedures, more billing. That's how academia is favored. And you know, the people that control the journals control what doctors can and cannot do.
Right. Yeah, we're experiencing this even in like the new GLP-1 medications, which I'm sure you have a very strong opinion about. But in anesthesia world, we're talking about should patients eat or not eat before surgery, and how long should they wait? And the different governing bodies of different medical specialties keep coming up with different guidelines all the time, and they're all conflicting. And some are data driven, some are like socially driven, like we shouldn't shun patients for being obese and like make them feel bad about talking about their medicines. And yeah, there's just no, it's like, let's do what's right by the patients and what's actually safe. And you can get a whole discussion of if those medicines are good. But we just make up things. Like no one really knows what's going on.
Yeah,
everyone's trying to get a grant and money and do their thing.
Yeah, I think the entire GLP-1 and anesthesia is they don't want any more negative attention on GLP-1 medications. So let's make people aspirate rather than, you know, discuss that there might be a risk of that, you know?
Yeah.
Let's play it safe for our sale numbers, you know?
Yeah. I think that's a lot of it. I mean, it's just the latest guidelines that came out, you know, just seemed very much, the more that comes out, the less it's about data or like actually patient outcomes or doing the right thing. It's more about, it's like, who wrote this and like who really wrote this? And I know either the laws have changed where doctors can't just take handouts from pharma outright anymore, but the incentives are still there, which I'm sure you experience.
The incentives, this is something that most people don't understand. Your doctor is not benefiting from selling statins. Yeah. He's not directly benefiting from selling statins. The corruption is at a much, much higher level, where the people who write the medical guidelines are in bed with pharma. These people benefit financially from having these medications be put in guidelines.
Yeah.
And so a physician who is not following the guidelines is held legally liable for doing it.
Right.
So you don't have to go down to the level of the physician. You control them from the top.
Yeah.
And this is the root cause of this is how the mechanism of the corruption in medicine.
Yeah, it's like the Cantillon effect of medicine, right? The people at the top making the rules financially benefit the most, and then by the time you get all the way down to the doc seeing patients, like they're honestly trying to do the right thing. Like I don't think docs wake up and like, oh, I'm going to prescribe a bunch of statins today.
No, but they're just following the rules.
Yeah, which is good. I think it's just you have to wake people up, like kind of shake them awake, like, hey, why are we really doing this? And what if there's an alternative?
Yep.
Would it be fair to say that medical training kind of really beats down the critical thinking side of physicians?
I think so. I mean, it's just like, if you remember, like the way when we study our boards, it's just memorization and it's just pattern recognition, and the way we study, there's not that much analysis going on.
Yeah.
And I guess it's helpful if you are trying to just fit people into certain diagnoses to connect them with certain pills. But
Yeah.
I mean, because the entire pharmaceutical model is not interested in addressing the root cause, is not interested in figuring out the root cause.
Yeah.
The way it works is we need to just streamline people into these pathways and give them treatment as such.
Yeah, I think you and your brother described it in your last podcast as basically making diagnostic robots. Like you gather as much information as you can, as quickly as you can, and get to the pinpointed disease that ideally has a diagnosis that is governed by guidelines. So the medical education system has optimized that end result, and obviously we're seeing the end product of that, which is modern medical doctors. Do you think, this is my follow-up question to that, do you think that AI and technology, like, we don't have to memorize everything anymore because it's just at the at the tip of your fingertips with your phone or your computer? Does that allow us to get back to critical thinking and doing the right thing, or do you think that the technology is going to make it worse before it makes it better?
I think what's going to happen is, more and more doctors are becoming mechanical, and they just want to, rely on AI and stuff. But for patients, they are going to become even more nostalgic towards a doctor that's going to actually sit with them and explain things to them and develop a connection with them.
Yeah.
So I think that will lead to more people understanding that AI is not helping in that regard.
Yeah.
What people want is actual true healing, through people listening to them, etc.
Yeah. The art of medicine.
Exactly.
Right? I think people forget that. And I have that all the time. Anesthesia, most people think of as like, oh, you don't spend any time with the patient, you just put them to sleep. I always kind of make the counter argument is like, we get the least amount of time and have to make the most impact in that quantity of time that we have, because we have to get this person to trust us, within 5 minutes of meeting them, to take care of them and keep them alive on the table. So I always try to make sure, I explain the full risks, benefits. We're on a team, right? So I want to make sure they have all the information. It's kind of going back to that GLP-1 stuff, right? Explaining what the risks are of proceeding with the procedure today, and what we can do to minimize those risks, minimize the risk of aspiration. Because a lot of what we deal with is gray area. We'll have the surgeon say like, oh, this is an emergency, and it's not actually like a true emergency. But the hospital system says because they said that, then we have to go back, right? And we're kind of held liable to just do it. And at the same time, we're sitting there trying to explain to the patient like what the actual risks are, because we want them to have informed consent and be able to make a smart, educated decision, because they don't understand how the system's broken.
Yeah, I mean, older physicians, you talk to them, and they kind of like inherently know this, that it's all about the connection that you make with the patient. And I think they try and teach us this in medical school, that, talk to your patient and be nice to them. And we just always shrug it off as medical students. It's just bullshit, they just care about the cure and they care. But once you actually start practicing, you realize, this is basically 90% of it,
Yeah, absolutely.
But they boil it down to like little bullet points. Like, hey, if you sit down, your patient will give you this much higher scores on your feedback. Like, it's not really about the connection. It's like, hey, if you really want to score well on your top box, sit down. It helps. And like that's not the right way to teach it.
It's going back to that standardized patient encounters, right? Which we all have had. It's hilarious that was like an actual thing. To me, I feel like you kind of have that or you don't, right? Hopefully the vast majority of people that go into medicine are there to help people, and you kind of inherently have that sense of humanity and like taking care of another human being. So I just thought it was so funny when we go do those and they try to explain to us, like, make sure you shake their hand and make sure you sit down, make sure you like get close to them and listen. Don't just talk. Like, I'm like, this is all stuff that should be kind of obvious in medicine, but it's like a scorecard they want you to go through and like teach you to be, programmatic. And like, this is a natural thing that should just happen.
Yeah. And I feel for doctors also, because what the stuff that patients want to talk to you about, we don't really know that much about it. We're not taught about diet. We're not taught about exercise. We're not taught about sleeping habits. We're not taught about what they should do in the sun, all these things. And this is what patients want to talk to you. And this is why we kind of like, we're not comfortable having these conversations, because we don't know anything about this stuff. All we know about is pills and side effects and surgeries. And so it's difficult. And even I have alternative views on how diet should people should eat. It's not what the traditional nutritionist is telling them. So when patients ask me about what should I eat in the hospital, it's kind of like, where do I start? Like, where do I tell you that everything that the dietitian just told you is wrong, or do I just ignore this? Or it's very difficult.
Yeah, it puts you in a very unique position, right? Because your personal beliefs are in conflict with what the traditional system wants you to say.
Yes, and the traditional system is corrupt and lying to them.
Yeah, I think it becomes. I don't do primary care and do continuity of care, but in my mind, what I would want from a primary care doctor is like someone that is kind of like a coach. Like I have to take some personal responsibility as the patient, but I want to have them as a reference. Say, hey, where do I look to find this information? Unfortunately, I don't think that's the American ethos anymore. But I think that's part of the key to turning this ship around, is that it has to come back to being more personally responsible. Because the stereotype is that a patient shows up to the office, they have a problem, they want a medicine to treat it. Like they're almost programmed to ask for the medicine versus ask like what's actually going on. So it is on doctors in the guidelines, but it's also, we've programmed patients so much for that output that it's hard to if you say no, then you're viewed as a bad doctor almost.
Yeah, 100%.
It gets back to all the incentives. I've made this point before, and I've always thought it was interesting. It's like every ad you see on TV is for a pill, right? Go talk to your doctor about the side effects of this medication before starting it, or talk to your doctor about starting it. There's never ads that just talk about general information about this is what high blood pressure is. This is what it does to you. This is how it's bad and how it's silent and why you should care about it. Same thing for diabetes. Same thing for, name X chronic disease process. None of that is out there, right? So the average person that has these chronic medical conditions isn't informed to what it actually is and what it's doing to you. Chris and I often see this on the anesthesia side of things when we see somebody that comes in with a blood pressure of 220 over 120, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I just don't take my medicines," or I don't really know why is that bad, and they have no idea, and this is the third or fourth vascular procedure they've had for part of their amputation, or their diabetes way uncontrolled. It's just, how is this being the first time that this patient has ever listened or heard this information is like the day they're having their 5th surgery for this.
Yeah, I mean, the primary care doctor spends 7 minutes with them every 3 months. So what teaching can he do at that time?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the inspiration for your online model, right? Is like breaking away from that and doing more long form continuity of care.
Yes, 100%. I mean, most of medicine, especially on the preventative side, is sit down and get a good history.
Yeah.
When did this start? Why did it happen? What were you doing? This takes time. And, that's the other thing is we haven't gotten to the point where AI models are capable of, just getting this full history from a patient in a way that is going to get to the root cause of things, because the human body is complicated. The human body is more than just molecules and chemicals, and a lot of it is what psychologically has happened to the patient. What triggered this? When did it start, etc.
Yeah, and you see all the headlines like, "Oh, AI passed the USMLE board exam." It's like, that's great, but that's not actually like translate to good clinical care.
100%.
But it'll continue to be a headline. But I think once you are in it, you hopefully realize that should not be the end goal.
Yeah. So I guess the question I have: are you optimistic about the system at all? Is there any hope? Do you think like Bitcoin could fix this, or how do you think moving forward this improves?
As my brother says, if Bitcoin doesn't fix it, then it's not a problem, and Bitcoin fixes everything. So
yeah,
Bitcoin will fix this. I don't think it's going to be fixed where the system the way it is right now, we're just gonna get backed and develop it and it becomes better. I think this system is probably going to go down before something better comes around.
Yeah, it's got to break.
It's got to break. And what's going to happen is that there's going to be a lot of alternative ways of treatment and alternative models of healthcare that are just going to start growing on the side. And people are going to gravitate towards those more and more until the current system as it is collapses.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where you guys are based. I am based in Boston. And like you go to the hospitals around here, it's kind of like walking into a war zone every day, you know?
Yeah.
There are patients waiting in the emergency room for like 3 days before they go upstairs. There's always like code disasters and not enough beds, and people are not getting better, and you discharge them, they come back in a week, and it's not working. And are these the first signs of the system collapsing? If you ask me, I would say yes. And all these hospitals, despite how busy they are, they're still broke and they're still not making enough money. And in my opinion, the root cause of all of this is you're not actually helping people get better. You know, what you're doing is just pushing more and more interventions on them that are helping make money for the system, but you're not actually making people feel better.
Right.
You won't solve this problem by becoming more streamlined, by having more beds, by becoming more efficient, by discharging people earlier, by having less readmissions. That all doesn't matter. What matters is we are not helping people get better. And fundamentally, this goes back to the formation of the American Medical Association in the early 1900s. And, you know, it's interesting, the Austrian economists talk about this, how all of these societies started forming mysteriously around the same time that the Federal Reserve was formed. You know, no coincidence there.
Nope.
The way it happened is the American Medical Association was formed in 1903, and their purpose was to standardize medical care in the entire country, which makes sense. On paper, that's great. You know, we like things standardized. We like people that follow orders. Then the Flexner Report was published in 1910. And I think any physician who wants to understand modern medicine needs to understand the Flexner Report. The Flexner Report was written by this guy called Abraham Flexner, who was a high school teacher. And he was given the task of write a report to help standardize medical education in the US. And of course, you know, standardized at that point, you know, they made it seem like, you know, we want things to be more lawful and follow rules a step. But what actually they meant by standardize is we want to make all of medicine pharmaceutical-based medicine. So the rules then, the rules that were written then made it clear that any medical school that taught anything that wasn't pharmacology and pharmaceutical-based, all these medical schools were shut down. So 60% of US medical schools were shut down around that time. Okay. Back then, if you go to a doctor, the treatment model wasn't just pills. So we had homeopaths, we had naturopaths, we had osteopaths, we had chiropractors, and you would go to these people. These were doctors too, you know, and they had different ways of treating the body. But what was critical is that because it wasn't a pill-based model, they always looked at your lifestyle as well. So they always shared that in common. But the Flexner Report made all these medical schools illegal. So all doctors practicing this sort of medicine became quacks and criminals. And this ushered the era of, you know, a pill for every ill. And ever since, what people think of as medicine, what people think of as doctors, is just pharmaceutical pills. But that wasn't the case. For thousands of years, people have been getting sick, and we've had all sorts of ways to treat the body. Why go after these schools of thought? If you think your medicine is better because it's more effective, then let's let the free market decide that. You don't need to go shut down their medical schools. But what you're actually doing is that you're just creating a monopoly because you're scared of the competition, because the competition is actually looking into the root cause and trying to help people, versus your model just relies on patents and selling drugs.
Right. So do you think that the system, a system that works returns back to a free market? Is that your ideal, what it looks like?
Nothing works without the free market. Nothing works without a price attached to it, because, you know, money is a reflection of human effort, human, you know, work.
So how do you think because like I talked about earlier, patients are just so programmed to the model. How do you get a patient on board to being responsible for their health and making better choices?
So I think, I mean, this is going to sound like hearsay right now and insane, but if we go back to actually cash for every ailment, everything that you need to get, you pay directly for. Well, first of all prices are going to go down because prices are insanely inflated right now because insurance covers everything. So you can just inflate the price as much as you want, and the insurance company covers it, and the insurance company gets a cut of whatever you're paying. So
Right.
it's beneficial to both parties to increase the price as much as possible. So if we go to the point where your doctor visit costs you something, then you are going to be aware that, oh, my health actually costs something. So
Yeah.
the choices that I make are going to affect how much money I have at the end of the month. And that should be the reality of the situation, because, the choices that you make, you decide on vacation based on how much money you make. Why shouldn't you also decide on, do I want to have a knee replacement or not, or do I want to try natural things before?
Sure. Yeah, I think even even back to, it's a pharmaceutical type of view, but if patients get a medicine for free versus paying even $5 a month, their adherence to the treatment goes up significantly when they have even just a very small cost. It's just that personal investment into their health makes a huge difference in their compliance to whatever you're trying to get them to do, medicine or not.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, at the same time that all this, payment for, you no longer have to pay for your medical care, it also came around at the same time that we are telling people, we stopped being able to tell people what is actually good for them,
Right.
diet-wise, lifestyle-wise. So people lost both sides of this. They lost the economic incentive, and they've lost how to understand their bodies anymore, And this is something that the internet is going to be great at getting us out of. It is, now you can, if you do a little bit of work, you can get to the truth of what actually works for your body.
Yeah.
And hopefully the models of pay for service are going to get bigger and bigger, so that to the point that also healthcare is going to cost you, so that you are more aware of the consequences of your health choices financially.
Yeah, my dad does primary care, and he was in one of our other episodes, but I've talked with him for a long time, and he has a similar view that his patients that choose to do cash pay are so much more involved. They have so much more of a shared decision-making model about what they want for their health and what treatments they want to do versus the cost versus the risk benefit. And they're much more adherent to it. And their office, they're a part of a big regional health system, but they have they used to be 30 or 40% discount for paying cash. So there's a financial incentive. If you want to not use your insurance or just, have a different way to go about your health, there's an automatic financial incentive to do that.
Yes. And, again, bad accidents happen, and there are things that are very expensive. And, traditionally we lived in a society where people had churches, people had communities, people had families that would help them cover costs for tragedies. Now we've just made this so that it's either your insurance or the government that covers it.
Yeah.
And maybe a future model where, you do have insurance for catastrophe events does make sense, because the costs are just, a lot higher than regular care that you need.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be getting getting free healthcare for, your knee pain.
Yeah, I think it does sound like heresy to say that, but if you make the person financially invested in their choices, then they feel better. They stick to the plan, and they feel better versus if you give it to them for free.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and this is going back to how all the hospitals are filled here in Boston, and it's the same kind of all over the US, especially in urban centers. And if you talk to Canadians, they have to wait 6 months to get an MRI or a year to see a specialist. And the reason is if it's my knee, any knee pain, I would think I need a knee MRI, But the rational way of thinking about this is not everyone with knee pain needs an MRI.
Right.
LeBron James's knee is different than mine. You know, there are complexities to knees and necessities to knees. So LeBron James can afford to have an MRI whenever his knee hurts, but the average person should not be able to afford it. Or if they do, then they would have to pay for it.
Right.
But if the system wants to cover every knee for every MRI, then you're stuck waiting 6 months to get an MRI. Or you have to get like a bureaucracy, someone sitting there deciding if this patient deserves an MRI or this patient doesn't deserve an MRI.
Right.
And this just leads to a huge growth in all the bureaucrats working. So that instead of you and a nurse working in a clinic, you have 3 people also just handling paperwork to get financial coverage for these imaging. And then you have the same number of people working at the insurance company and at the government to try and look into whether these MRIs are necessary. And this is why this humongous growth in the number of administrators in medicine has increased, while physicians are getting paid the same amount, while all these people are, leeching on the system.
Yeah.
Yeah, the patients like to blame the doctors as the reasons for the costs, and I don't think they realize all of the vast majority of that money for, as inflation continues, it goes up to the administration is the predominant amount where the money goes, or the insurance companies.
100%. Yeah, and going back to the inflation problem, also like the way Bitcoin will help, get us out of this mess is big problem with, groups, small clinics, small groups being taken over by bigger groups is why these bigger groups can grow so much is because they have access to it's easier for them to get access to cheap loans.
Yeah.
And so the key to surviving inflation these days is having access to cheap loans. So these companies, because they're so big, they can get cheap loans, and therefore they're able to grow so much more. And when that happens, instead of the doctor spending their time with their patient, they're spending extra time just trying to keep those bureaucrats happy and trying to keep those big companies happy. And it's destroying the doctor's time. It's taking away from his time with his patients. He's losing money, and it's all just to satisfy this big company. If we get rid of inflation, then that doesn't necessarily need to happen. Doctors are not really that incentivized to join big groups anymore, and they can just work directly with their patients.
Yeah.
It kind of gives you back autonomy, right? I think that's the nice thing about, even on like a personal level, adopting a Bitcoin standard gives you the ability to have more of your time back because you're not worried about running on the inflation hamster wheel and trying to keep up. Bitcoin kind of does that for you. It makes sense that we could do that on a much larger scale in medicine and allow smaller groups, like you mentioned, to take back autonomy and practice how they want to practice instead of following the orders of the admins above them.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So do you think we could talk about this for hours, I think, and it starts getting heavy. So to re-summarize, I think what we've talked about as a solution is it goes back to personal responsibility and education and away from these guideline driven models that are just based on really poor incentives. Is that a good summary of kind of what we talked about?
I think so. I mean, doctors need to understand that just because it comes from a authority that publishes guidelines doesn't mean it's true. Right. You can, Google search things these days and you'll discover a lot of contradictions in the stuff that they're showing us. So that's a good way to start. And then ask yourself, well, if I believe that I want to get my patients better, should I be listening to what's actually true or should I be listening to the guidelines? And once more and more people start doing that, then the patients that they treat are going to start getting better, and they're going to spread the word, and more physicians are going to be doing that.
Yeah,
and
we learned it. Go ahead.
And that will hopefully just dismantle the system because smart minds are not going to keep going into it. They're going to start escaping from this matrix.
Yeah, you learn, like, even in elementary school, like the scientific method and how to, I see a problem in the world. I wonder what's causing it. Let me test it and see what it does. And then by the time you get to the end of the medical education spectrum, like, you learn, like, yeah, that's how we built the system, but you don't really need that anymore. Here's just your guidelines and follow these. I think that's part of, if you went back to root cause, like, you lose that curiosity and that way to study and learn scientifically about individual problems. And we try to treat statistical data sets and apply it to our individual patient or individual self. which is not. I think that's part of where we got off track. It's one of those things where if you take two things that are parallel and you turn it by a couple degrees, when you first start, it doesn't seem that far, and then the further you get away,
compounding over time.
Yeah, you're miles apart by the time you fast forward in time.
Yeah, I'm still not sure what the actual cause of this is, but like, whenever like crazy things are reported on the internet, like ivermectin can be used to treat COVID, like it's never, I've never seen one of my fellow physicians just go in and do a Google search about it or anything. Yeah. They just read what the Medscape headline says and that's it. And I wonder, are we just so overworked that we don't like questioning things? Are we just scared of ever figuring out the truth? Or I don't know what the answer to that is, but it just strikes me all the time, like, do a 10-minute Google search about it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking before you completely shut off the idea. And
as a culture, we're so programmed to not go beyond the headline. Like, our time preference is so high. Like, we just want the information now and move on, that I think that bleeds over into your professional work too. I think that's part of it.
It was pretty incredible. Like, for me in medical school and in residency, the amount of time people just spent complaining about the work rather than actually freaking just doing it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like, I slept a decent amount in medical school and in residency because I just didn't complain. I would just get my work done and leave,
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, part of me wonders why, like, I'm not that different. I'm not that special. Like, why? Maybe it was the Bitcoin. Maybe it's the lower time preference. I don't know.
Do you think, because you and your brother are both very successful, and I don't know if you have any other siblings, but do you think it's like, I trace my success in that I have very similar views. Our family values, like my grandparents and my parents had kind of instilled, not even explicitly, but implicitly by example, just really led to that hard work and self-discipline ethos that led a lot of the kids in my generation, like the cousins and brothers, to just follow that nose to the grindstone. I'm going to do my work every day, not complain. Do you think that your family values anything to do with that? Or, I mean, because both you and your brother are very successful in your own special fields.
I think so. I mean, my dad was very good at that. You go and you get your work done and you get out, no complaints.
Bitcoin fixes that too, right? If Bitcoin and inflation broke the family, Bitcoin brings you back to kind of that multi-generational, what's really important over a long time horizon kind of thing.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I wonder if, like, I guess it's probably the low time preference, high time preference thing with doctors, where they're seeing their wealth losing its value, and they're losing years out of their lives, and I guess the only thing they can do about it is complain. That's the only thing they feel.
And they try to just run faster, right? They try to spin the hamster wheel faster, which seems logical, and I get why people think that, but that's not. It's burning you out faster. It's not actually getting you anywhere.
Yeah, I think this is something also I thought about this week when just being in the hospital and just seeing all the insanity around me. At a deeper level, when what you are doing is deeply false, you can kind of sense it in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If deep inside what you're doing is fiat, you're just giving pills that are not fixing the person. You feel inside of you don't feel accomplished. So, the hamster mind in you, the hamster wheel in your brain, is trying to figure out, why is this system why is this so complicated? Why is nobody getting better?
Yeah.
And I think that's, people try and, it must be that my hospital sucks and all these things suck in the hospital. And
if I went somewhere else, it'd be better.
Exactly. And, it's because my co-residents don't work as hard, or it's the other attendings, and the ER physicians blame the hospitalists, and the hospitalists blame the ED physicians. Everybody blames the surgeons, and the surgeons blame the anesthesia. And it's because deep inside, it's fiat.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. I didn't realize that you still had a hospitalist job. Like, we're in a very similar scenarios where, like, we have this day job that we call our fiat mind. Like, I'm just going there, I'm earning my fiat because I pay bills and have a family. And you try to improve it on like a small scale every day. But like you said, it's like, I think the term would be cognitive dissonance. Like, you internally really disagree with what you're forced to do every day.
Yeah. It was very difficult for me in like residency also, because I'm doing things that I don't believe in, but I have to do it to get the ribbons. And
Yeah.
I think, social media has allowed me like an outlet of, I can just post things, I can post what I like, and also just seeing that there are similar minded people out there. And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of the internet, is that you can kind of create a community of similar minded people, even
Yeah.
if you don't live beside them,
And you don't have to necessarily agree with everything that they have to say, but I think
Yeah.
that small pockets like this, like we're trying to build, let you have a discussion about, controversial air quotes topics, and really hear people out and you have to start thinking about your own, how you're going to think about it and process it internally, and how is it going to affect your life or your practice or whatever you're talking about.
100%. Yes.
I think one of the interesting things I think about, you kind of mentioned, Ahmad, that you see all this stuff and you're trying to wonder, like, well, how do we fix this? Why is it this way? You get back to fiat. The same kind of people that discover Bitcoin and like have this low time preference are the same kind of people that ask those questions. I've often thought, is that just like the mentality of the person that tends to understand their most valuable asset is their own time? And then by studying, understanding that Bitcoin is the best preservation of that, and that's a way to fix it. I try to come up like, well, why are these people the ones that are only the ones questioning, and the other guys that are just fiat through and through are the ones that have that cognitive dissonance that Chris is talking about, and just running on the hamster wheel, and they're just like, oh, this is just how it is. This is how it is, and how it always will be. It's that whole mantra of like science and medicine advance one death at a time, and it takes like generations of docs to retire or admins to retire in order for things to actually progress to the point of like we understand how to treat this illness better, and I'm hopeful that if we get more and more docs on a Bitcoin standard, you get more people who have that type of intelligence and have that lower time preference to start making an impactful change in the system. That's at least what I'm hopeful for.
Yeah, but we question everything as Bitcoiners, and there's nothing that you can't question. And that's the right mindset,
Yeah.
Well, we need to make questions great again, is what I'm hearing.
Exactly. Yes.
We've lost that as a society, as a profession. We don't really question anything. We just kind of go along with the flow.
Yeah, I mean, most people are it's very easy for them to criticize religions, which people have believed in for thousands of years, but it's not okay to criticize the hospital system. It's not okay to question the quote unquote science.
Do you run into any issues because you do work for a hospital system? Like, do people know what you do on social media? Have they tried to like hamper what you say, or is it kind of just under the radar for now?
Under the radar for now.
Yeah.
When they find out, we'll have to deal with it once we get there. So
not financial advice. This is not medical advice. All these opinions we've shared don't represent who we work for and what we do, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing that works in my favor is because I care about my health. I'm pretty healthy, and I have a low time preference way of thinking, that I'm a little bit better at my job than most of the people around me. So that kind of works in my favor. So I don't like bureaucracy meetings, and the hospital group has like a meeting every week to discuss things, and I just don't go to those. And they know that I'm excellent clinically, that they don't care that I don't attend these meetings.
Sure.
I think that's a hard thing for us too. We're known in our like cohort as being pretty good anesthesiologists, and obviously we're younger, and a lot of times the patients will be like, "Oh, you're my anesthesiologist." But we can do a bunch of different things that some of the other guys can't do, and I think that's overall better for the patient. But again, we're focused on the clinical stuff. A lot of the other guys are focused on like the academic stuff, and especially in like academic medicine, they're more interested in grants and publications and focused on all of that, and not actually focused on like the clinical care. I think Chris and I can both attest back to residency. We remember working with attendings that like as a resident, you knew if you didn't get this like central line in, or like this tough IV, or intubate this difficult airway, that specific attending that is fiat academic medicine through and through is not going to be there to bail you out, because they're not going to be able to do it. They don't have the skill set. They're not that good clinically, which I think is just most patients don't know that, but that's like academic medicine through and through is like driven by the residents by a large degree.
Yeah, it's kind of like a reflective of how the growth in government has happened in Western society. Also, there's less and less people that want to do things, and more people that just want to give instructions to other people.
Talk about things.
Yeah.
Talk about things, give instructions, give guidelines. And unfortunately, the people who end up wanting these roles, it attracts like the worst of the physicians, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because if you're just enjoying getting the reward from your patients because you're actually doing a good job, you don't care about, you know, meetings and bureaucracy. And
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's a struggle that a lot of successful clinicians face. Is like they see their colleagues that go up to do administrative medicine and they lose that side of them, or either intentionally or unintentionally. And it's like, why would I ever want to do that? So you end up turning in on yourself and making yourself and your practice better. And I think the struggle is making everyone else around you better. It's a constant back and forth. Do you think in your practice, like in the hospital, are you trying to orange pill other physicians, or is that just totally under the radar? You do your job and go home.
I've given up on doctors a while ago. I respect you guys a lot for this podcast, but I mean, it all started with me. Like my craziness started in medical school when I went on a paleo diet, and I just cut out sugar, I cut out bread, and I cut out processed foods, and I just felt 10 times better health-wise. And like I felt so incredible at that time that all I wanted was just to tell people, you should just try this. Give it 2 weeks of your life. See how amazing you're going to feel. And the amount of pushback I got, especially from my co-doctors, was just incredible. It's just insane that I decided I'm no longer giving wisdom to anyone. You know,
Yeah.
if people see anything of value, they will gonna come ask me. I'm gonna put my work out there. People can read about it. But I prefer not to go and chase people with. A lot of people know about my brother, know about the book, so they come and ask me questions. It's usually people that are interested, you know, in learning about investment opportunities, and I try and explain it to them why this might be a little bit more than just an investment opportunity, and why as an investment it also makes sense. But they also kind of like a low tide preference way of thinking about it, where you know the price goes down by 1,000 tomorrow, and they automatically lose interest, and so it's difficult.
Yeah,
it's a back and forth with Bitcoiners because the number go up idea like does get a lot of people in, and I think the goal is if you're deep in the rabbit holes, like you get someone hooked by number go up, and then they just like catch the mind virus, the truth virus, and like work their own way down to find the real truth of it. Obviously people fail at that all the time, and you know, buy high, sell it low, and fall off the wagon. I think though that a lot of Bitcoiners have that initial role and end up coming back in the fold later on. But yeah, it's a lot of back and forth mentally of.
Have you guys been successful red pilling, orange pilling other doctors?
You want to
take this one?
I'm very optimistic at heart, and Chris can kind of say like the joke with our group is like if you come into our anesthesia ready lounge where like often the docs will hang out, it's like Chris will walk in and I'll be trying to orange pill like 4 or 5 other anesthesiologists or some of the surgeons, and I've gotten quite a few. And I always kind of like you mentioned, it always does start out as like an investment opportunity and trying to explain why. I try to always explain why inflation is bad and like what that does to their, you know, their income and their work ethic and how you can't preserve your time because of all the money printing, and explain that on a number basis. Cause I think a lot of doctors just inherently aren't good at understanding finances or math. We're never exposed to that. And so that's kind of how I start. And I try to get them to just buy a little bit. Like I'm not trying to tell you like you have to go out and buy a whole Bitcoin, especially at the prices now, but own a little bit, especially own a little bit for your kids. And I say, once you get it, then it forces you to do like a little bit of research, you know? So even if you got to like 0.01 of a Bitcoin and you just hold that, right? I try to make it as easy as possible because we live in this society that's all about convenience. So I believe more in like true hard, you know, cold storage Bitcoin. But with the availability of the ETFs now and some of the Bitcoin proxies like MicroStrategy, I try to tell them, well, even if you don't want to use like your salary, you have exposure. You can have exposure in your 401k now, right? Which a lot of times they're not even paying attention to anyway. And so I try to get them into that to at least start to pay attention. And then they have to, it's kind of their job, just like in medicine, to build a conviction to know what they're holding, because that's what's going to make you hold for those 4 years and live out a cycle and have it benefit you. So those are always, anesthesia kind of lends itself to more fun time in the OR where we get a chance to talk to like the surgeons and the nursing staff. But I'm kind of known as the guy that's always talking about Bitcoin in the OR. Like I'll be wearing my strategy jacket. I have a Bitcoin scrub cap. Like I try to they know me as like the crazy young anesthesiologist that's always talking about Bitcoin.
I get the questions that bounce off Adam come to me like, is Adam like really serious about all this? Is this like a real thing? I'm like, yeah, like it's a real thing. I'm into it too. You don't hear me talk about it, but and I answer questions to anybody that comes to talk to me, but I'm kind of like you, Ahmad. Like I really struggle to cold call people over coffee in the break room. Like, oh, what do you think about Bitcoin? Like it's just, the success rate of that is so low in my opinion. And if someone comes to me and wants to talk about it, you know that they're that much more interested in it than trying to hook them randomly.
I guess people are intellectually lazy, so it's just it's not something they're used to. They're just used to, oh, I heard the stock is going up, and they just think that that's the same thing. But it's not like that, you know.
Yeah. We always get when Bitcoin was an all-time high on like a Monday, it's like, oh, I'm surprised you showed up to work. You didn't retire. It's like, no, I didn't retire.
Go ahead, Ahmad.
Yeah, and then they also they think of, just like Apple stock, you know, reached basically its limit. They think that that's how Bitcoin is, and it's already too late.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very difficult for people to understand that only 1% of the world knows about Bitcoin so far.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
So
that's a great point. I get that all the time. They're like, oh man, I could have been buying when it was 10,000. This is often from the older docs. And they're like, why would I buy now when it's 120,000? I'm like, you guys have no idea how early it still is and how much the adoption curve we still have left to go. Like it's at its greatest risk to return profile that it's ever been in its lifetime, right? You've got now a bunch of different corporate treasuries buying it. You have governments buying it. It's not just individuals. And I try to explain to them that there's not enough for every individual. And we're kind of lucky to be in the field that we're in to have the high income as an attending. Like you can afford to set some of that aside, right? And if you're living on what your full paycheck is, there's something else wrong there, right? You should be living more within your means. And goes back to this debt-based consumerism mentality that is built through fiat. I try to explain to them, like, there's a reason that I still rent a house as 2 years out as an attending. And like, I drive the same car I've driven since high school. Like, yes, I'll eventually get to those things, but my time preference is so low now because I know the value in what I'm stacking is so much more rewarding than those other debt-based incentives I could buy now.
100%.
I think when you enter Bitcoin too, all that stuff becomes just less tantalizing. Like you don't really want the fancy car, like you used to, or other people do.
It's I like to joke. It's like the first rabbit hole is what I would describe Bitcoin as. It's like once you jump through that rabbit hole, like all these other rabbit holes start to open up, and then again, I don't know if it's just that mentality of the person who finds Bitcoin is the same type to kind of challenge things and to want to, to not be intellectually lazy, as you talked about, Ahmad. But it opens up so much more. Like, oh wow, maybe I do need to question this about my diet or about my health.
Yeah. You can just
do
things.
I don't go shopping that much, but like when I'm walking in like an airport and I go by like the duty free and I would see like watches or something, and I'd be like, oh, this would have been interesting if there wasn't Bitcoin, you know?
Yeah,
exactly.
Something I would have bought if I wasn't stacking sats, you know?
Yeah. I guess that what I would summarize most of the talk so far, Ahmad, if you had to clarify, is like the whole goal is to get people not to take any medicine or not take pills, but there's one pill you should take, and that's an orange pill.
100%.
Yeah.
So
that's the only pill that you approve.
That's the whole goal of this Bitcoin Fellowship podcast that Chris and I created, is like this. The idea is a fellowship year where we can orange pill other docs or other people in medicine and get them to get exposure. So they take that first pill and they kind of understand how they start to feel better, how all these different aspects of their life start to improve by being on a Bitcoin standard.
Yeah, it's really incredible when your wealth goes up with time. It's that simple, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You have a savings account and you're seeing that it's going up in value.
Yep.
It's quite simple, and you don't have to you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to reinvest in things. You don't have to be doing research. You don't have to be reading the Financial Times. You just put it in one thing and see it grow.
Yeah, and then it frees you up to do with your time and mental energy to do so many other things that you should naturally be curious about. So we need to make curiosity great again.
Chris is all about making things great again, if you can't tell.
It's just such a memeable thing. Like you just have to do it.
I think so. Anesthesia as a specialty is driven by a heavy call burden. That's how a lot of anesthesiologists make their money. And then as a specialty, that's you just have a lot of call, right? Because there's always surgery that has to go. I think one of the interesting things that Chris and I have kind of felt is like as we've moved from residency into attending, we still take call, but like we don't, as Bitcoin has appreciated, we've felt much less of that need to like, oh, I need to take extra call to like keep up or any of that. I'm sure you can feel the same way, Chris, but I see some of my older partners and I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys take so much call and like you get to spend as much time with their kids because they're they may work 14 days in a row because they're working their 7 to 5 Monday through Friday. And then they're taking call Saturday, Sunday and like staying in house in the hospital. And then they just continue to work the next week. And I'm like, why are you guys on the hamster? Like, this is why, again, this goes back to me talking to them in the ready room. Like, just try it. Use that call money you made on the weekend and put that into Bitcoin and just hold that and see what that does for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You won't have to go to the hospital that much anymore.
Yeah. Right. The joke that I heard as a medical student was if your favorite place in the entire world is the hospital, is the OR, become a surgeon. If your favorite place in the hospital is the OR, become an anesthesiologist. And so that's kind of the joke I make is that like if I had to be in the hospital, I'd rather be in the OR. That's why I did anesthesia. But I'd much rather be at home or spending time with my friends and family than being in the hospital.
Yeah. I think anesthesia gave me that flexibility to prioritize things in my life that were not medicine, like my family and my kids and my hobbies. You know, the prior to have taken some of the time from my hobbies, but that's totally fine. That's my choice. But Bitcoin gives you even more flexibility because with that financial stability and improvement over time, because of the absolute scarcity, you know, I can scale back if I want to while my kids are young and in elementary school, and I can push the gas when they're in college and I have more free time. And if I want to work more to earn more, then anesthesia lets me do that. And Bitcoin just enables that to the nth degree. Like it makes that exponentially better, in my opinion.
Number go up technology, quite incredible.
And hospitalist medicine is similar because it's I'm assuming very shift based, right? Like you can scale up, scale down within.
I'm trying to scale down as much as possible. It's just getting tough out there.
Yeah.
What do you like to do in your free time, Ahmad, outside of you said like being out of the hospital?
Yeah, I mean, I like nature a lot. I like hiking a lot. There's a lot of it here in New England, so I like to do that.
Very cool.
Absolutely. Where are you guys based?
We're in Texas, in Dallas.
Okay. Oh, very nice.
I mean, the same the problems you're describing up in the Northeast, it's the same here. Like I'm sure it's pervasive across the entire country. You know, when you walk in there's EDs full, you know, especially on anesthesia, when we get called to an airway down to the ED or like a level 1 trauma, I'm walking past all these patients that like, you know, you can tell the ones that are like, oh, that patient probably needs to be seen like sooner rather than later. And I'm on my way to take care of like this other patient. And it's just a mess. Like you said, what was the word you described it as? Is a
war zone.
A war zone. Yeah, it's absolutely. And sometimes I wish I could just have like a fly on the wall or like a little camera where I could show like the average person. This is like what medicine is sometimes. Like they think doctors just sit around and like just see the next patient. And I'm like, I wish you could just see all the craziness that happens on some of these call shifts.
Yeah. Honestly, like also nurses have it pretty bad. Poor nurses.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
Stuff that they have to deal with. Deal with.
When I'm orange pilling in the OR, I often mention to them more. I'm like, we're lucky because we have more disposable income and can like make that happen. I'm like, you guys don't realize you're stuck on the hamster wheel even more. You're trying to have to run even faster than us. Like you need this more. I say that to the scrub techs and the nurses specifically.
And not in like a pejorative way, like, oh, you're so much below doctors, but the less income and, you know, free income you have to invest and make those choices, like the more imperative it is that you find the rabbit hole and find someone to show you the way.
Yeah. And you hear, I mean, it's incredible stories of people who were able to get out of the hamster wheel just by simply, you know, putting $500 a month in Bitcoin, or even $100 or, you know.
Yeah, that's all it takes. Yeah.
Do that for 3 years and you already have a significant amount of money, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about Bitcoin is people are so like based on this unit of account, like, oh, I need 1 Bitcoin in order for the number to go up. They don't understand that like with it being divisible up to the 100 million Satoshi per Bitcoin, the amount you invest will compound at the same rate, whether that's $5, $500, you know, $5,000. That's going to compound on itself the same amount, 40% CAGR, just indiscriminate of whatever amount you put in.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. We're coming up on just over an hour. We want to respect your time. Ahmad, thank you so much for joining us. We always like to close and get recommendations from people. I really want to get to this question because you obviously have a built-in recommendation with your brother's book, but is that what you recommend to people if they come up with questions, or do you like buck the system and send them somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean, understanding the history of money as a starting place is a good place to start. Read the Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean Ammous. It gives you a perspective of why Bitcoin is so important.
Mm-hmm.
If you want a more basic understanding of, just how to invest, there's other resources out there. But if you understand it at a much deeper level, I think the Bitcoin Standard is a good place to start.
Yeah, that's the first book I read to get me really orange pilled. I think it does take some work because it's a little bit more it's not academic like in a negative sense, but it's a dense material. Like it's not just casual reading. You have to really pay attention and think about what you're reading. But if you get through it, I think that the rewards on the other side are just so great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's obviously a wonderful resource. I think The Big Print by Larry Lepard is a great book too that just recently came out. And I think he does a good job of making it a little bit more digestible for like the average person who has no background and or just can pick it up and read it real quick, and it's a much quicker explanation. But those two, I think are wonderful resources to get.
I think it's kind of like how we've talked about medicine, and there's not one size fits all for everybody, and your audience and who you're talking to. And for some people, the people that can kind of put the time in and read the Bitcoin Standard. I think they get a lot out of it. And there's some people like that will just be such a turnoff, and you have to send other resources, which the Big Print is another great one.
Yeah, I mean, if people want like just simpler resources to understand how to invest and where to start and how wallets work, I think BTC sessions are very good.
Okay.
The Guy Swan podcast is also very good. These are good
Very cool.
to start.
It's neat how there's so many resources now because it's becoming so mainstream, which is awesome. So, the more information we can put out there.
Yeah, a lot of people have done a lot of good work.
Yeah.
Getting the word out. So.
And since we have you on, I have to ask you, if you had to give people one health topic to investigate for their own well-being, what is like the one thing you would tell them? Sleep, statins, diet.
Yeah, I think most importantly is light.
Light.
I think this is a very, very important effect on our health that not enough people are talking about.
Okay. I was going to ask you, I thought we might get into light a little bit more, but since we're kind of running out of time. So we're anesthesiologists. We're up before the sun comes up. We're in the OR all day. What could we do for what we do specifically to help with that?
Yeah, I mean, so the most important thing to understand is that your body requires sunshine. It's not that it's like an extra addition and it gives you a nice tan. No, your body needs sunshine. So the more sunshine, the better, of course, except, you don't want to get sunburned. But if your job dictates that you need to be inside a lot, try and take breaks outside as much as you can. Okay.
So even like a couple minutes, 5-10 minutes
is
beneficial.
And even if you can't like take your shirt off or anything, just having your eyes see the sun is good enough.
Okay. Very cool.
Doing that at various points in the day will help keep your circadian rhythm in check, that your body is aligned with the sun. And that just not only like helps with energy levels and sleep, but also sets your hormonal signals for the entire day based on a proper circadian rhythm.
Very cool. Is there a go-to resource for that? Because it's something I've heard you talk about and other people in the space talk about. I haven't gone down that rabbit hole myself, but where should I start?
I mean, my
Google search and like read.
No, my Twitter is a good. I try to post about stuff. The good reference for this is Dr. Jack Cruz. He is. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's on Twitter. He's complex the way he talks about this. I try to simplify it for people, but he is the gold standard for. I
think I saw him on Marty Bent's podcast with like no shirt on, right?
Not a gold standard, Bitcoin standard. Come on, Ahmad.
He is the Bitcoin standard for understanding life.
I think I've seen him in a podcast with no shirt on. I'm like, that's interesting. I need to watch that one, but I haven't made it that far in my watch list yet.
Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, very cool. Well, where can people find you online? I'm sure people are interested by what you have to say. We're gonna have to have you back for sure and talk about more of these health, alternative health things that we don't learn in medical school. Because I know I personally have a ton of questions that we didn't get to.
I would be more than happy to. People can find me at Ammous MD. I'm most active on X or Twitter. I also have an Instagram, Ammous MD, and my website, ammousmd.com.
Very cool. We'll definitely share those in the show notes at the end. We're recording here. We didn't talk about Bitcoin price, which seems perfectly relevant for what we talked about, but the number's going up. Bitcoin's doing Bitcoin things. I think it's appropriate we don't even say the price in this recording. We'll hope to have this out on Monday. It's Saturday, August 9th right now. I'm trying to record this today, and I'll get it out by Monday the 11th, I think is when we'll have this dropped.
Excellent.
I think that's the point, right? Is that we not talking about the price. We're talking about stuff that's much more important. And that's the beautiful part about Bitcoin is like when you really get into it, like, yeah, you're going to track the price. That's kind of just like part of it. But like you can focus on other things that's more important in your life. Bitcoin's a tool, right? It's not the end all be all. The more important thing is your health.
Yeah.
100%.
So.
Well, Ahmad, thank you so much for giving us an hour plus of your time on a weekend. I know as doctors, my weekend time is really important to me. I got to go get back to my family before they make me quit this whole podcasting thing.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Adam, for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll definitely have you back. Appreciate it.
Sounds good.